You're 21, sitting in a parked sedan at a truck stop off Interstate 40, eating a gas station sandwich and watching an 18-wheeler pull in beside you. 27 years later, you sign your name on a $6 billion merger with the company that once hired you as a kid. Between those two moments sits a $906 billion industry that moves 72.7% of every box, can, pallet, and engine block in America. This is every level of trucking in the United States and what it actually costs to climb. If you like breakdowns of how careers actually progress, like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Level 1. The student. You walk into a private CDL school and write a check for $3,000. The high end of tuition is $10,000, and you don't have $10,000. The federal floor is 160 hours of training, classroom, yard, and road, required since February 7, 2022. You memorize a 120-item pre-trip walk-around in a parking lot in February. You learn the air brake test, the offset back, the alley dock, and the parallel in that order every day until your hands stop shaking. The instructor says it out loud the first morning. 50% of you fail the knowledge test on the first try without prep. The second number is worse. In one recent week at one school, 4 out of 15 students passed all 3 parts on the first attempt. So you study. You sit in your car at lunch with flashcards on the dashboard, taking the practice tests until the pass rate climbs to 95%. Then you sit for the real one. The pre-trip recital. The basic vehicle control. The on-road exam. 80% on each section, or you walk out with nothing. The day the score sheet says pass, the school hands you a CDL and a list of the only carriers that will hire someone with 0 miles. Werner says no. CR England says no. Swift says no. Schneider says yes at 33 cents per mile and a sleeper berth above the cab. Ready for Level 2? Level 2. The rookie. You sign a 1-year contract with a mega carrier. Your first paycheck is 42 cents per mile, and on a slow week, the kind nobody warned you about, you drive 1,800 miles instead of the recruiter's 2,500. You make $45,000 that first year if it goes well. $60,000 if it goes very well. The federal hours of service rule owns your day. 11 hours of driving, a 14-hour on-duty window, a 30-minute break after 8 hours behind the wheel, and a hard ceiling of 70 hours in 8 days. The clock runs whether you're moving or sitting at a dock. You learn to plan fuel stops by the clock, not the gauge. You learn that the truck stop fills up at 4 in the afternoon, and if you're not parked by 5, you sleep on an off-ramp. The IRS gives you $80 per day in per diem, 80% deductible, which is the only good news in your tax return. You're out 3 weeks, home 3 days. Your apartment is a sleeper cab the size of a walk-in closet. The shower at Pilot costs $15, and you tip the attendant $1 because she remembered your name. Then comes the first DOT roadside, a Level 1 inspection, 37 steps, a stranger in a uniform climbing under your trailer with a flashlight. You pass. The carrier you signed with reports a 94% annualized turnover rate. Your trainer quit on a Tuesday and went to a competitor for a $1,500 sign-on bonus. The dispatcher is in Omaha. You are in Laramie. The wind is 60 miles an hour, and the chains are still in the side box. You sit. And you wait. By month 9, you've stopped calling home every night, because there's nothing new to say, and the call wakes the kids. At month 12, your year is up. Level 3. The veteran. You have 2 years of clean miles and an MVR a recruiter will actually read. The premium carriers, Crete, Schaefer, Walmart, Private Fleet, will now take your application. Crete's top half drivers average $1,856 per week at 64 cents per mile. Schaefer's top half clears $103,903 a year. The federal median for the job is $57,440, and the top 10% crosses $78,800. You hit 3,000 miles in a single week for the first time, and your back tells you about it for 3 days afterward. You learn to run recaps instead of restarts, because the restart costs you a Tuesday and the recap costs you nothing. You learn that the BOL discrepancy at the receiver is yours to fight, and the lumper bill is yours to argue. Then comes the night that doesn't go away. You're descending a grade on Interstate 70 west of Denver in March, and a four-wheeler cuts in front of you at the bottom of the runaway lane. You hit the Jake. You hit the service brakes. The trailer wags once and stops. The other driver never saw you. You pull into the next exit and sit with the engine running and your hands on the wheel for 40 minutes. The dispatcher calls. You don't pick up. The carrier files the incident under FMCSA's Crash Preventability Determination Program. It comes back not preventable. Your CSA score doesn't move. You go home for the first 34-hour reset in 2 months. Your daughter is 8. She asks if you're staying. You say no. The Radford study put driver divorce at 19.14%. The industry survey put transportation second highest at 40.5%. The 2007 paper on the unionized cohort put the mean age of death at 61.3. NIOSH measured the long-haul population at 69% obese and 51% smokers against 31 and 19 for the rest of the country. You read those numbers in a magazine at a TA in Effingham. You set the magazine down. The choice, stay company or buy your own truck, sits at the bottom of every paycheck for the next 18 months. The dispatcher pings your tablet. New load. Stockton to Memphis. Level 4. The owner-operator. You file MC Operating Authority with FMCSA for $300, and the receipt is non-refundable. You write a check for the UCR fee, $176 for one truck. You file Form 2290 and send the IRS $550 in heavy vehicle use tax. You walk into a Peterbilt dealer and look at a new 579 Sleeper at $168,800. You don't buy it. You buy a used Kenworth T680 with 440,000 miles for $62,000, 20% down, 8% for 72 months, $2,244 a month for the next 6 years. The insurance broker quotes you $20,000 in your first year, the new authority tax, because no carrier has ever heard of you. ATBS, the bookkeeping firm, runs the average $64,524 in net income, $86,000 for the full-time only crowd. The top 10% net $215,000. The hard math says 63 cents of every revenue dollar walks back out the door. For fuel, maintenance, insurance, the truck note. The April spot rate on a dry van runs $2.52 per mile. You target 93,000 miles a year. You target deadhead under 15%. You miss both the first year. The 18-month FMCSA New Entrant Safety Audit lands on a Tuesday. The auditor walks your maintenance file, your driver qualification file, your drug and alcohol program, and your hours of service records. You pass. 88,000 authorities were revoked in 2023. In September of 2025, 4,473 new authorities were granted, and 5,606 were revoked, a net loss of 1,133 carriers in 30 days. 85 to 90% of new owner-operator businesses fail inside 2 years. You watch a man named Alan Kitzhaber accept Overdrive's Trucker of the Year, same year as your audit, for putting 4,106,766 miles on a 1995 Kenworth T600 he bought used in 1998. 3 engine overhauls, 1 truck. He retires, you go home, you read his interview twice. Then you call your dispatcher and ask for the next load. Level 5. The small fleet. You buy a second truck. You hire a driver. You pay him 50 cents per mile, and you fire him 11 months later for skipping a pre-trip and running a flat to Wichita. You hire a third. By year 4, you have 8 trucks. By year 6, you have 14. And the dispatcher you used to call is now a man on your payroll named Carl. Schneider National books $4,100 per truck per week, about $213,000 per truck per year. Knight-Swift's truckload segment runs $49,703 per tractor per year on the operating side. The healthy small fleet rule of thumb sits at $15,000 to $25,000 net per truck per year. That math works in 2021. It does not work in 2024. The 2024 truckload sector ran an average operating margin of negative 2.3%, meaning the average truck in your industry lost money. Big fleet capacity in March of 2025 Saturday 21% below the mid-2022 peak, the lowest count since 2006. 31,278 trucking companies shut down or got absorbed in the first 4 months of 2023 alone. 80 to 85% of trucking startups fail. You make payroll on Friday with money the broker hasn't paid yet. You factor receivables at 3%. You learn that the difference between a healthy fleet and a dead one is whether the truck note clears in May when the spot rate falls below $2.20. A couple in South Dakota named Jamie and Hillary Hagan run an outfit called Hell-Bent Express, 1 truck in 2020, 10 Mack Pioneers by 2025. They average 10 miles per gallon against the industry's 7.12. They cut brokers and book direct out of the Dakotas. In Iowa, Les Holtkamp and Tina Drez take their dry van fleet from 20 trucks to 30 between 2018 and 2022. $3.4 million in revenue in 2020, $6 million in 2021. You watch them, you don't sleep much. The truck is the easy part. The payroll is the hard part. The lawsuit you don't see coming is the part that breaks people. Level 6. The Founders. On July 19, 1994, cousins out of Plain City, Utah, Randy and Gary Knight, Kevin and Keith Knight, open a freight office in Phoenix, Arizona. Each cousin writes a check for $50,000, $200,000 total, plus a $10 million line of credit from Mercedes-Benz of North America. Day 1 is 3 trucks and 3 loads, Phoenix to Los Angeles. First-year revenue, 1991, $13.4 million. In October of 1994, they take the company public on NASDAQ as KNGT, $8 per share, $22 million raised. In 2004, they moved the listing to the New York Stock Exchange as CUNX. The cumulative split-adjusted return from that 1994 IPO is 3,580%. On April 10, 2017, they announce a merger with their old employer, Swift Transportation, founded in 1966 by a man named Jerry Moyes with 1 Diamond T truck. The deal closes September 8, 2017. $6 billion enterprise value, 23,000 tractors, 77,000 trailers, 28,000 employees combined. So here is the part nobody tells you on the first day at the CDL school in February. The man who built the largest truckload carrier in North America was once a Swift driver. The man who built Swift started with 1 beat-up Diamond T in Phoenix in 1966. A truck made by a brand that no longer exists. The 4 cousins who put $200,000 on the table in 1990 didn't sit in an office and wait for the freight to come to them. They drove the freight. They knew the I-10 corridor between Phoenix and Los Angeles by mile marker and way station, because they had run it in a sleeper, eating the same gas station sandwich, watching the same trucks pull in. The peak of this ladder is not the absence of the truck. The peak of this ladder is the truck, plus 26,974 more of them, and a New York Stock Exchange ticker, and a merger with the company that once handed you a CDL and a sleeper berth. And the freedom level, level 4, the one every rookie at every truck stop dreams about, is the level where 85 to 90% of the entrants are out of business inside 2 years. 88,000 authorities revoked in a single year. The freedom is freedom from one boss into bondage to a truck note, a fuel surcharge, and a broker who pays in 45 days. The man who reviews your safety file at FMCSA has never driven a truck. The auditor who shuts down your authority has never driven a truck. The shipper who cuts your rate has never driven a truck. The only people in this industry who ever actually drove the trucks really drove them. In the rain, on Interstate 80 in Wyoming at 3 in the morning, are the drivers themselves and the 4 cousins out of Plain City, Utah. Everyone else is just moving the paper.